I have a pool that is 43 years old and the coping is breaking all over. I asked a company how much to replace coping and they said $20,000 plus $7,000 for the new liner after. After that, I would like to do it myself, but it's impossible to find who could sell me the coping parts I need. When I go to a pool store, they just get scared of me asking for coping on a liner pool. I call a company and they only sell to businesses. Could you help me put me in the right track to find coping and then the liner for what sounds like an in-ground vinyl liner pool?
Okay, so to replace the coping is not an easy process if you have to replace all of the coping. And I guess I would ask the question, why do you have to replace the coping? Is it that it's an old bullnose? So let's try to put this into pictures if I can with my fingers. Oftentimes, if you had the pool steel wall here, and the coping would be like a cove-shaped aluminum with a slot for a liner to hang in. And then you poured concrete in there. And if over time that fatigued enough, the liner would start sagging out and falling out. And so a reason to replace the coping would be that the coping's no longer holding the liner in and it has to come out. That would be one reason. Another reason would be, did the concrete move and break it up, and is it dangerous? Are there sharp edges? Is it all twisted and broken up? Another scenario. Cases like that particular case, it probably needs to come all the way out, or at least sections of it. But if it's the first case where it's just not holding the liner anymore, there's a far less expensive route to go, and that would be to leave that original coping in and add a face mount coping to the front and below it. So now you keep that profile all the way around, but your liner actually attaches slightly lower because you now just screwed an individual piece in. Now your cost goes from $20,000 to replacing all of it down to $1,500 for the coping and the labor to screw that little coping face in, and you replace the liner. So without knowing, do we have a problem with the coping doing its work, or is it unhealthy to have, or is it, you're just looking for an update? All those questions would really need to be asked. If it was a matter of it being practical and holding the liner or not, there's a lot of ways that you could add an additional face mount coping that would do, leaving that there, adding a piece would be what I would suggest doing most often. If you have to remove it all, it's a matter of saw cutting a few inches behind the coping all the way around the pool, breaking out the concrete that's there between the pool and their saw cut between the coping, pulling all of it up and replacing it and putting new in, or replacing the entire patio and putting new coping in, pouring new patio. There's a lot of places in between the $20,000 versus the $1,200 or $1,500 face mount coping, and without seeing and knowing more of the details, I don't know that I could point you in much better of a direction.
And just a thought, a pool store or even a pool supplier will be very hesitant to sell direct to the consumer because there are so many variables. Chances are if they try to sell you something, you'll be unhappy because it won't be what you need.
That's a great point. I think probably if you either presented someone with a set of pictures, think about being on the other side of the counter when you walk into a store and say, hey, I want to replace my coping, can I buy it? If that person on the other side of the table even has any idea what you're talking about and they understand, there's 40 scenarios they have to think about in their head. Your approach might be, have pictures. Have all the pictures of whatever you think you need to show them and say, here's my scenario. What are my options? Could I get away with just putting a face mount coping on, replacing the liner? Do I have to take that coping out? Do I have to take the patio out? And then get some honest answers that way. Because without having a pictorial, even like me right now, without seeing what you're talking about, I could come up with 15 different scenarios of what it could be with the amount of information I have. So until I have a little more of an educated understanding of what you need, it's pretty tough for me to say, oh yeah, this is a one simple solution. If I saw the pictures and I was able to look at them and I saw your concern and why you think you need to replace it, then I could make an educated decision and I could say, oh look, I could sell you a face mount coping kit, and then I could go to my supplier and order all the parts that you need and give it to you, and you could do it yourself or find a contractor to do or whatever. But without knowing any of that stuff, there is no one way to do this. There are lots and lots and lots of ways to build and to renovate. And I wish it was really simple. It's just not. More pictures would help. Take some pictures, print them out, bring them and walk up to somebody that has a good reputation and say, what do you think? And then they can point you in the right direction. Send them to me. I'll certainly will look at them and give you my opinion on them. I can give an opinion. Now you might have to find someone to do the work, but I could certainly give an opinion once I had a better view of what was going on.